Welcome back to Rich Rodriguez Season by Season. After 2 straight Gator Bowl appearances with Rasheed Marshall under center, the Mountaineers entered a brand new world. Coach Rod had to replace Rasheed, who had graduated the previous year, and also had to grapple with a new look Big East Conference. The Big East's revolving door continued to spin in 2005. Boston College became the 3rd team in 2 years to make the leap from the Big East to the ACC. Temple also left the league after league presidents voted to remove the Owls for not meeting attendance or competitiveness standards. In their place, 3 Conference USA teams entered the fold. Consistent bowl team and familiar foe Cincinnati joined, along with young upstart program South Florida. But the prime addition was Louisville. The Cards entered the Big East coming off 7 consecutive winning seasons, including a top 10 finish in 2004. It would be a new-look Mountaineer squad that would face these Big East teams. Only 8 starters from 2004 were returning in 2005, and most of them were on the defensive side of the ball. 100% of West Virginia's passing, 80% of West Virginia's receiving, and nearly 2/3 of West Virginia's rushing were gone. So Coach Rod had to find some answers. The Mountaineers entered 2005 wielding double quarterbacks, Adam Bednarik and a skinny kid from Daphne, Alabama named Pat White. At running back, it was a wide-open competition. Junior Jason Colson and sophomore Pernell Williams appeared to have an edge, but freshmen Jason Gwaltney and Steve Slaton started making noise in fall camp. Whoever the running back ended up being would join Wisconsin River Falls transfer Owen Schmidt in the backfield at fullback.
It's a pretty good group. We thought athletically coming in, a few of them could help us, and mentally, they're still lost. I think there's not one freshman out there that's ahead of anybody else mentally. So it's going to take them a while.
With the questions on the offensive side of the ball, WVU was not picked to win the Big East in 2005 and instead were picked 3rd. That dubious honor would go to league newcomer Louisville. Pitt would be picked 2nd as Dave Wanstedt took over the program, and then Syracuse followed the Mountaineers at 4th. UConn was at 5th, Rutgers at 6th, then Big East newbies South Florida and Cincinnati picked to finish at the bottom. Speaking of the Big East, West Virginia would have a unique challenge to start the season. Instead of getting a warm-up game, so to speak, WVU would have to travel up to Western New York and face Syracuse in a Sunday afternoon conference matchup. The loud atmosphere of the Carrier Dome wreaked havoc for the young West Virginia offense. The Mountaineers amassed 5 turnovers, 4 of them fumbles, and cannot find the end zone all day. The WVU defense was stout against the Orange, but the home team did find a way to strike first on a goal line push in the second. The turning point for West Virginia came 2 possessions later when Eric Wicks intercepted a Perry Patterson pass and took it 31 yards to the end zone. In the second half, WVU tacked on a field goal to take the lead. Then Ernest Hunter made the next impact play for the Mountaineers, taking down Patterson in the end zone for a safety. Add another field goal, and WVU escaped Syracuse with a 15-7 win.
Yeah, we're real proud of them. I thought, that from top to bottom, they did a great job. And the kids that come in and played in situations, I understand their role, and we're real happy with their effort. And
the young Mountaineer offense managed to take better care of the ball the next week against 1AA Wofford. Still playing in a backup role, Pat White gave WVU fans a sign of what was to come, rushing for 107 yards that included 48 on a rushing score to put the Terriers away 35-7. So it was safe to say that the Mountaineers were still figuring themselves out offensively, but they would have to find some answers fast. WVU was about to take the trip down I-68 to Maryland, a place WVU hadn't won since Rich Rod took the job. Not too many teams had taken down the Terps in College Park since Ralph Friedgen had taken over, but the Mountaineers were ready to join the select few that had. Both teams struggled to move the ball in the first half, with WVU leading 7-3 after 30. In the second half, the Mountaineer rushing attack exploded, and they did so by committee. 8 different players combined for over 300 rushing yards to help WVU pull away. Owen Schmidt led all of these guys with 80 yards on 6 carries, and freshman kicker Pat McAfee booted his first 40-yard field goal of his career to clinch the 31-19 win. The future media personality earned his first Big East Weekly honor with that kick.
I didn't get into it literally 20 minutes before practice started. Phil Brady was like, "Hey, Pat, come in here for a second." I was like, "All right." He shows me this thing on the computer, and I was just like, "Whoa, cool, man, it's good stuff." And then gave me a little pat on the butt, and I walked out of there. So it's not really, I haven't really sunken in yet.
The youth would be apparent back in Morgantown against East Carolina. Both Adam Bednarik and Pat White would toss touchdown scores early, but the highlight of the first half came from Antonio Lewis. The sophomore defensive back took a punt return 76 yards to the end zone to contribute to a 20-3 halftime lead. But in the second half, penalties and turnovers kept WVU from scoring again, and the Mountaineer defense had to hold on to the last play in a 20-15 escape against the Pirates.
If I went in there and those guys were jumping up and down like they won the Super Bowl, I'd be concerned. But I want them to be happy that we're 4-0, and not a lot of folks thought we'd be 4-0. But at the same time, you go in there and those guys know they can play better.
All right, 4-0, but kind of a fluky 4-0, and West Virginia would have to put it together for their next game. For the final time in the foreseeable future, Virginia Tech would make the trip to Morgantown, and since joining the ACC, the Hokies had found some serious success. The Mountaineers were playing from behind almost from the jump. With Virginia Tech up 10-0 early in the second quarter, Pat White gave Milan Puskar Stadium some buzz, finding Mike Villagrana in the back of the end zone to close the gap to 3. After another Hokie score, number 5 would go to the air again for WVU, finding Darrell Jalla over the middle for a 46-yard touchdown and keep the deficit at 3. Unfortunately, WVU wouldn't find the end zone again. Poor ball control gave VT too many opportunities and they'd cash in on most of them with a 34-17 win.
I don't want anybody in that locker room to accept losing, and I don't think they will. And those guys they understand what this program's about. They understand, that we expect to win every game, and it's disappointing when we don't play well.
A much improved Rutgers team awaited West Virginia next, but unfortunately for the Knights, they had no defense for Steve Slaton. The freshman running back recorded his first career 100-yard rushing game with 139 and a touchdown. Defense and special teams also showed out in Jersey, first with a punt that was both blocked and recovered in the end zone by Tondi Smith, then with 3 interceptions to keep Rutgers from making any kind of serious threat in a 27-14 win.
It was real nice. I mean, it helped with the rhythm a lot just to stay in there, see how the defense was. I think that helped.
You hold the block for half a second and he's 20 yards downfield. That's a great feeling. Sometimes, you should get his big burly backs, they might get 3 or 4 yards, but Stevie, he's such a quick guy, he gets done really good.
So the kinks were closer to being fully worked out, but the Mountaineers would have a new challenge. The new big bully of the Big East, the nationally ranked Louisville Cardinals, were set to come to Morgantown. But as many Mountaineer fans will tell you, that was a game to remember. Louisville jumped out to a 24-7 lead after the first 3 quarters. It was a win that seemed secured after starting quarterback Adam Bednarik went down with an injury. But that's when the nation was introduced to the dynamic duo of Pat White and Steve Slaton. White came in with 11 minutes to play to lead the Mountaineers under center, converting critical 3rd and 4th down conversions to set up a 3-yard touchdown run by Slaton. Pat McAfee's onside kick went West Virginia's way, and he capped off the drive with a 28-yard field goal to put WVU within a touchdown with 4 minutes to go. The Mountaineer defense stepped up by forcing a Louisville 3-and-out, and all the momentum and energy was on the West Virginia sideline. White and Slaton combined for a 40-yard touchdown drive to tie up the game and complete a 17-0 rally in just 8 minutes, 24-24 at the end of regulation. After trading touchdowns in the first 2 overtimes, both teams entered the 3rd OT tied at 38. Owen Schmidt's 20-yard 3rd down rumble set the stage for another Slaton touchdown. White found Darrell Jaloff with a 2-point conversion and gave the Mountaineers a 46-38 lead. Louisville's Michael Bush responded for the Cards with a rushing touchdown of his own, but the defense stepped up once again. Brian Brom was sacked on the 2-point conversion attempt, sealing a 46-44 triple overtime comeback win for WVU, without a doubt the most clutch win since Rich Rod took over the job.
It took 3 overtimes, but the Mountaineers finally completed an amazing comeback, erasing a 17-point fourth-quarter deficit.
I won state championships, I won district championships, I won Big East championships. I can't rank this. This is right up there with, man, I can't rank it. It's right up there. It's the best. I mean, it might be the top moment in my life ever playing sports.
It's just so much excitement. It's so great for our team to actually come together as a team. You know what I mean? Everybody's just a great team, and when we went in there, we were actually cheering team, instead of saying who did this and who did that.
Freshman running back Steve Slaton carried the load throughout the fourth quarter and overtime. Slaton, a traveling man in this game, he made many trips. In fact, 6 of them here in the end zone.
I wasn't counting. Back in high school, I scored like 5, but I mean, score 6 on this level, I think it's good.
The Mountaineers finally had the attention of the Big East and the nation, but a busy month of November lay ahead. Hurricane Wilma postponed the South Florida game to the end of the season, so West Virginia would come into their game against UConn off an 18-day layoff. So the question was, is it going to be rest or is it going to be rust?
It's not a big deal. I mean, I think you always adjust. You got to worry about things you can't control. We obviously can't control, the weather and situations like that. So our guys will have to adapt to it. It changes some of our recruiting schedules that we had planned for next week and for the first week in December. But everybody has to adjust at some point, and I think our guys will be able to adjust okay.
And the coach was right. The Mountaineers adjusted just fine. No one more so than Pat White. In his first collegiate start at quarterback, number 5 passed for 106 yards and a touchdown and added another 63 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground to lead WVU to an easy 45-13 win over short-handed Connecticut. While the stats were elite, the highlight of the night for Pat came on this Steve Slaton run.
He laid a licking on that kid, I'll tell you that much. He got right under the chin. That was a good hit. That was a good hit. You could hear the whole stadium erupt after that one.
It'd have to be a good one to beat that one he got there. And you kind of saw it coming because it was right in front of our sidelines, and he'll have a lot of fun with that when we watch it with the team on Friday.
The young offensive stars kept popping 1 week later at Cincinnati. Steve Slaton rushed for 129 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Pat White added 111 on the ground and 100 through the air. But the story of the game was the defense. The Mountaineers bottled up the Bearcat ground attack and pitched WVU's first shutout in 3 years in a 38-0 rout in the Queen City. With those 2 wins, the Mountaineers had a fairly comfortable seat at the head of the conference table with 2 games remaining in the season, and the national pundits were taking notice of this young group.
Kirk, first of all, WVU, West Virginia University, having a great season this year in college football. Tell me what your thoughts are about the season they're having.
I've been impressed. I mean, when you lose the quarterbacks, you lose the experience that they've had, the leadership that they had from a year ago. Chris Henry was so important to them getting downfield and making plays in that offense. I really thought that there might be a year where Rich Rodriguez would have to develop this team and get them back to the level of being able to win the Big East. But I've been impressed.
Despite almost an entirely new roster on the offensive side of the ball, Rich Rodriguez found himself in the same spot he was in the year before, entering Thanksgiving needing a win over Pitt to keep the BCS dream alive. Frigid cold and icy conditions greeted both teams for the 98th playing of the Backyard Brawl. Pat White found 7 points several times in the 7-degree wind chill, rushing for a Big East and school quarterback record 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. He added another score through the air to Steve Slaton, who added 179 rushing yards of his own in an easy 45-13 win.
I just go out and try to make plays and try to make things happen. I don't really think about what record I'm going to break or what kind of game I'm going to have. I just try to go out and make plays and help the team win.
Having two speed threats, I think that's a big thing for defense to focus on. And then with Owen Schmidt and just pounding, you don't know where you're getting, so you don't know what to focus on.
Mountaineers were already outright Big East champions going into the regular season finale against South Florida, but it didn't matter. They wanted to finish undefeated in the league. The defense played their part just as they had all year, bottling up the Bulls and the league's leading rusher Andre Hall. On offense, it was the same old story. The 3-headed rushing monster of Pat White, Steve Slaton, and Owen Schmidt combined for over 300 yards, including this 76-yard jitterbug touchdown run by Pat and a 28-13 win.
Number 1, baby, BCS all the way, Sugar Bowl, here we go!
With the win, the Mountaineers would secure its 3rd 10-win season in program history and its first BCS Bowl bid. The Mountaineers would draw Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, but due to the devastation of the city of New Orleans by Hurricane Katrina, the game would be moved to Atlanta's Georgia Dome, basically making it a home game for the Bulldogs. In front of a sellout crowd at the Georgia Dome, the Mountaineers hit the ground running, literally. On WVU's 3rd play from scrimmage, Steve Slaton took it 52 yards to the end zone to cap off an impressive drive. On the next possession, Pat White decided to air it out 3 times, punctuated by a 3-yard pass to Darius Reynaud. 14-0 Mountaineers real quick. D. McCann set up the Mountaineers' next possession with a fumble recovery to set up another old gold and blue score. Then to open the second, Slaton cruised in for another 18-yard rush to put WVU up 28-0 over Georgia early in the second quarter. From there, the Bulldogs woke up, outscoring WVU 21-3 for the rest of the first half to send both teams to the locker room with a 31-21 Mountaineer lead. After a largely uneventful second half that saw Georgia cut the WVU lead to 3, Rich Rodriguez made a gutsy calculation with 1:45 to go. On 4th down from the Georgia 38, punter Phil Brady took off and picked up a first down to allow WVU to run out the clock and secure a 38-35 Sugar Bowl win.
I think our players are really focused. They played hard. Georgia gave us a great battle. They're well coached. They got a lot of great athletes, and it's a great win for our program.
You know, I think our program is definitely on the rise. I mean, Coach Rodriguez has done a great job bringing his staff together and recruiting players for the system that he runs. And, you know, I just think the sky's the limit for Mountaineers. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing for a national championship in the years to come.
Despite the fact that Pitt spent the holidays at home with no bowl game, Steve Slaton made sure WVU got one more win over the Panthers. He picked up MVP honors after running for a Sugar Bowl record 204 yards, breaking Tony Dorsett's record for Pitt.
I mean, it's a big thing. I mean, it's hopefully just a sign of what's more to come and for the program. Hopefully I can just keep it improving every year.
The win was arguably the biggest in West Virginia program history up to that point and brought a new measure of respect for the new look Big East. It turns out in 2005, West Virginia didn't need a rebuild season. They reloaded, re-energized, and became recognized as one of the burgeoning forces in college football. And even with a BCS Bowl win under their belt, this young core was still hungry for more.
Looking ahead to next year, I know the excitement of tonight is here, but then the excitement of looking ahead is also around, and the sky really seems like it's the limit for you guys. Can you talk about how exciting it is to think about where you guys can go next year?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, this will hopefully help us out in the rankings a little bit, and you know, as far as for next year, and you know, we're going to celebrate this, you know, tonight, maybe for a week or so, but you know, after that, then it's on to business. You know, lifting and conditioning for next year and whatnot.